all, it depends. And one thing led to another. So my accounting experience, which comes in handy when you're actually dealing with facilities management, opened the door for me to learn more about the facilities world. Something I didn't have on my radar, something I had never considered. And then I started to think today in preparation for this presentation. It it was somewhere in my subconscious mind when I was a little girl back in high school. I have experience using a theodolite to take derivations and to survey land. Didn't go into that field because my teacher at the time said, "Oh, with your personality, I don't see you behind a computer doing anything like that. I see you engaging with people." So I didn't consider going into the engineering or surveying world. So it's just like, and so somehow, as Nick said earlier, the stars aligned, wherein I ended up experiencing kind of, I would say, probably the best part of my life at Starbucks. I was there as a actually regional facilities representative across 17 states for Starbucks. I did that for about 5.5, 6 years. I then moved from the Southwest region of the US to Mid America, which I was based in Indianapolis. I, kind of said, hey, if you ever need me to help grow that market, I would be open to relocating. They offered me kind of an offer I couldn't refuse, where I could keep my California salary and live in the Midwest. So hopped on it and ran. And then was there during, I don't know if any of you recall, when this was about 2007, 2008. You started to see a lot of stores and the market was changing. Store closures were happening and stores had to be closed. And that was because the model for Starbucks is not necessarily coffee. Okay. Starbucks does not sell coffee, they sell an experience. And so, as business owners, that's something to think about. What are you selling? What is it that you want consumers or your clients to continue to come back for? Not just that you have a good service or a good product, but how do you keep yourself in their kind of in the forefront of their mind? Okay. And if you think about it, any of you here, are you avid Starbucks drinkers?
Not avid, but I recently discovered this medicine ball, and let me tell you that
Okay.
I thought people were just hyping it up, but I wasn't feeling too well one day, and I said, "Let me try this medicine ball," because I don't even know how to order in Starbucks. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm always like, just give me the smallest one. I can't remember, tall, grande, whatever. But I said, give me a medicine ball, and it really does help. It is really therapeutic. Tassina says she drinks one every day.
Yes, I see that,
Literally.
Tissine. And I'm going to tell you, Starbucks loves you because you are a frequent consumer. And there are some consumers that they come back 3 times a day. It's one of those things. And so, facilities management, let me share my screen with you, because facilities management is not just about the buildings. Okay. It's not just about your property, it's about also the people, not just your consumers, but also your employees, your staff, those that actually have to work in the space. Okay. So let me ask this: how many business owners on this call here? Um, how many already have property where you're either owning or leasing? Okay, I see you. Yes, Cassandra. Now, are you an owner or do you lease? Investor. Awesome. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. And actually, there's a little tidbit I have in here about investors as well. So this is good. And I'm sure you can chime in, please, to let me know if you agree with what I'm going to share here about property and facilities management and investors. Anyone else? Anyone here considering purchasing or owning their own building. All right, and please feel free if you want to. Please, I'm an engager of people, so you can unmute, communicate. I thrive off of feedback and kind of responses. You're considering Ashley. I see that. Okay, awesome. Anyone else? All
You
right.
say just
Well,
purchasing, or if folks are
purchasing or
interested in
leasing,
leasing? Okay.
either or.
I own a multi-unit building, and looking to add some more to the
Okay,
portfolio.
awesome. Okay, let me share my screen here. Let me move this so I can see you all. All right. Let me know if you can see my screen. Can you guys see my screen yet?
Not yet.
Not yet? Okay, one moment. Let me fix this. Okay. I just want to share at a time. Okay, I don't know why. There we go. Yay, you should be able to see it now. Let me know if you cannot see it.
We see it.
Wondermus. All right. Go over here real quick. I have my little notes off to the side here. That. So this here is facilities management, managing your property. We're going to cover a few things here tonight. This agenda, we've already done my intro, and we're going to cover what is facilities management, how to manage your property, commercial leases, maintenance, and dealing with landlords. This here is a photo actually of when I moved to the Midwest region, to Middle America. This was a flagship Starbucks store that I helped to cut the deal on. So how this store came about, this is on Capitol Avenue. And actually I was doing some research to prepare for this today. And this particular location has now been relocated due to the sale of this property to expand a nearby hospital. So that's something to consider when you're purchasing or considering purchasing property. It's important to pay attention to what's happening in the area. Okay, what's foot traffic like? Is there a hospital nearby? Is there a lot of growth and redevelopment in the area? There's actually ways to collect traffic counts and information. And that's something I always say, if you're a retailer, if you have a retail business, that's something that's very important to do. Acquire those details. There's a way that you can, whoever you're dealing with landlord-wise, they can go out. There's companies that can consult and gather this information for you. If you've ever seen those like black rubber bands across the road with a little box off to the side, it's usually clocking how many vehicles are driving down a road. There's other instances and other means to track how many users are in the area. And nowadays that we have technology like our cell phones, these can be used as well to identify if we're in a specific area. Okay, just something to think about. This building now, it is actually being bulldozed, and then with this being a flagship store for Starbucks, it's been relocated just a few miles down the street, but on the same road, because this is a main road driving into downtown Indianapolis. I cut this deal because there was a regional corporate office actually right next door to this building that the landlord gave us an offer we couldn't refuse. Okay. Starbucks at times will purchase the property, but then there are times where it's more beneficial to actually lease. And I'll get into that a little bit later as to why at times it may be better to lease versus purchase. Okay. Does anyone have any questions before we proceed? All right. So what is facilities management? Before today, what was your thought of what is facilities management? And you can chime in the chat, or you can hop on the line and, hop on, unmute. Anyone? Quiet
I think,
group.
yeah, I'll jump in. Well, from what I remember, I used to work at a hospital, and like the facilities management department. It's like, I guess that they handle anything that happened to the building, or anything that had to do with the building. The actual physical building, they
Okay.
handled that kind of thing. I think.
Awesome. Yes, yes. Anyone
I think
else?
I think that's all I thought it was too. Whatever happened with inside the building and making sure that it is maintained. I
Okay.
didn't realize it went as far as like your previous slide of why to purchase that building because of foot traffic, which is interesting.
There are a lot of things to consider. So I'm going to show you this. The definition of facilities management. If you were to Google or search or go to any facilities management organization's page, there are a couple of definitions out there. But there are two that I recall and I remember from being at Starbucks that were important. So I've shared the top two with you here. From the International Facilities Management Association, the definition of facilities management is a profession that encompasses multiple disciplines to ensure functionality, comfort, safety, and efficiency of the built environment by integrating people, place, process, and technology. Okay. And then from the International Standards Organization, if anyone has ever heard of ISO, there's so many different segments of ISO. Their definition here in regards to facilities management, an organizational function which integrates people, place, and process within the built environment with the purpose of improving the quality of life of people and the productivity of the core business. And if you were to take both of those and kind of combine them together to kind of just create one good definition, I said for this purpose of this presentation, I'm going to say that facilities management is defined as the coordination of physical workplaces, meaning the facility or facilities, okay? If you have more than one, people, and support services in order to support a business's goal in the most cost-effective way possible. And that's where that accounting and that money, that bottom line thought needs to come into play, because you want to be mindful of your money as a business owner, right? If you have to take out loans, if you're using your own personal capital from a retirement or savings account, you still want to be mindful of your spending. Okay. Does anyone have any questions about what I have here? All right, we're going to move along. So we don't think of facilities management as having a hard and a soft side, but it does. Okay. This here's just a quick pick of hard facilities management versus soft facilities management. So under hard, it's that top light blue, okay, section of this circle here. That includes the HVAC, the electrical, the leasing component, the preventative maintenance, if you've ever heard PM, the word PM or that phrase used when it comes down to doing little things to prevent a major breakdown, doing little things along the way to help wherein you're not having to dump out a lot of money in the end, wherein if you take care of it like your car, right? If you take care of it in a timely fashion when you should at certain points in time in the timeline, the car will take care of you and get you from point A to point B. So kind of the same thing, you think of that in the same way in regards to your facility or your business and your building. There's also maintenance requests and also capital improvements. Who here has an accountant for their business? Okay. Anyone else with the show of hands? Okay, Paulette, I see you. Thank you. Anyone else? If you don't, I say make sure you have one. It's important, okay? You want to, again, watch your bottom line so you can stay in business, okay? Usually the first 3 to 5 years can be rough for a new business startup. You want to watch every penny, okay? Now, when it comes down to the soft side of facilities management, there's space planning. That's actually having someone go in. If you have a big open warehouse type of space, how can you take that lofty warehouse space and have it where you can use it mixed use, okay? That's down to putting up maybe just an office area with some cubicles, copy machine, a meeting room, all of that good stuff. And if you have a warehouse wherein on the back end you need to store product, then that takes planning. Telephones, internet coming in, all of that is a part of that. There's also too the cleaning, sanitation, and janitorial aspect of it, okay? Also waste management. That's the trash. So if you have a large building, like someone here mentioned, they have tenants or they have a large property, you probably have to have a waste, like a large container for your tenants to dump their trash. And then you have a company that will come ever so often, either once or twice a week, depending upon how much they use it, to come pick it up, remove what's in there, and leave the container for them to continue to use it over and over again. There's also mail management and groundskeeping. Groundskeeping is outside of the building. And so that's what people see when they walk up to your property. That's all still part of the facilities management portion, except that's the soft portion. That's the feeling when people come in. Is it inviting? What type of music is playing? And people don't think about that. You'll start to, after this, you'll go to different businesses, you'll go different places, and you'll start to notice things that you never paid attention to before. Okay? Refrigeration, when you're in the supermarket, refrigeration, catering, security. Is it a space wherein they have to use card readers or badge access? Or is it that you have it where on the different floors, only certain people are allowed on different floors of your mixed use building? There are all of these things to consider, okay? Is there anyone here that's looking to grow or expand their current real estate portfolio or as far as the facilities, increasing the number of facilities that they have? Awesome. Are you looking to just stay in the state of Illinois, or are you looking to go outside of that, but eventually over time?
Yes, I'm open to both. So there's a certain number that I would like to get to here in Illinois. I think that
Okay.
the number may be shifting as Illinois is a little tricky lately. It's getting more and more pricey, but definitely thinking about it's evolving, but definitely thinking about it. Started as like a vacation home or condo somewhere else because I love to travel. And then my thoughts were to rent it out, Airbnb it while I was, while I'm away. But I'm exploring, I'm open to various options.
Awesome. Awesome. And I ask that because just to kind of get the wheels turning. I go to get the hamster running on the wheel to just think, okay, I mean, nowadays, if it's not already there existing, the one thing that we can never get more of is land, right? We can always take an improvement on a piece of land, tear it down and build something new, or we can take what's existing and rehab it, renovate it, fix it up, and use it. Does anyone have any questions about what you see here? And there's one that's considered soft, which is regulatory compliance. Depending upon the type of business you have, this is important because where the business is, what you're selling, if you're selling anything, sometimes you have to have like a certificate for scale, believe it or not, like at Starbucks. Because they sell coffee, because they have to weigh the coffee and confirm that what they're selling you in the bags of coffee, it's that, 5 pounds or whatever, that 5-pound bag, there is actually a certificate on file for each store. And if there's no certificate on file, there's going to be a fine. And I used to cover, I had 200 and some odd stores in my area at one time. And then I was bumped up to almost 600 stores. And it was like, what is the easiest way to be able to manage this? And it was one of those things wherein a facilities manager can't really do it all without the help of others that are on site. So you have store managers. If you're that person, then you want to just kind of start keeping a log of certain things. What are what are you selling? If you have a scale, what's the requirements for that? And when you're setting up your business, you'll want to make sure that you fall within and you're covering all of the necessary regulatory compliances, even if you have like hazardous waste materials to dispose of. All of that is important, okay? Now, how to manage the property, right? How do you manage your property? And I go to this question first because how you manage your property depends on if you own it or lease it, okay? You wouldn't handle the management of your property the same way if you own it. So I'm going to cover a few things, the pros and cons of owning, okay? Is it better to own the facility is the question, first question. Some of the pros of owning would be you have more potential fixed costs where you have no rent, okay? There are tax deductions. You have more space, which then can generate more income for you for the bottom line of your company. You have investment, capital, and gain here, okay? And you have total control as the owner. All right. Now, a con could be, okay, the initial costs of owning. When you're an owner, with everything, more responsibility comes along with that ownership. Your costs can increase. You can have location downgrades. And the other thing with owning is you have to find the right building. Depending upon your business, you want to make sure that you're established, right? If you notice with Starbucks and some other companies, I've also had the pleasure and the honor of working for Apple. They're in established areas. You know that you can go to that location, right? And frequent that, that company, that you can go to their store and it's there, okay? If a store is closing, they're going to tell you, hey, we're closing. If they're relocating, they're going to have banners up to tell you that they're relocating. But I want you to think about how many times do you notice big names indicating that they're relocating or closing? Not often do you see that. Usually the cycle at Starbucks was every 5 to 10 years, we would do what we called a refresh. So at 5, we would do a refresh. That would be touching up paint, changing tables, changing the backsplash, the glass. Okay. Okay, so you have 4 mass closings at Walmart. Okay, they're in the Chicagoland area. Okay, that's interesting because that tells me there could be a couple of reasons why they are closing those stores. They could be oversaturated. I don't know if you've ever paid attention. If you go shopping, they ask you for sometimes your zip code. And a lot of times now our cards, our credit cards, our debit cards, actually on that the little magnetic strip on the back actually has everything embedded in it. Your billing zip code, it's there. It's coded in to that little strip on the back of your card. So it's easier now for businesses to acquire this information. So then they can plan out and see, hey, is it worth having this store here and this store here? Because one store can cannibalize another, is what they call it, can kind of take it over, eat it up, wherein they may find customers aren't frequenting a store more often than another. It may be because of location, easy access to get in and out. That's other things to consider. What's parking like? Okay, is it close to a bus line? You know, just depending upon the type of business you have, these are all of the things to consider, especially if you're deciding.
I'm sorry, Valerie, can I ask a question? What are some examples of location downgrades?
So you can see this a lot now, especially with gentrification happening. It's interesting because I'll give an example here. When I was in Indy, there was a corner of, it was Meridian, which is a main street up and down the center of Indianapolis, North Meridian and 38th Street. There are times wherein, and I don't know if, I think Chicago may have this, they have what they call economic empowerment zones, areas that they're looking to redevelop. The areas may have once at one time been a great prime location, then somehow over the years, businesses have started to move out either due to theft, due to roads not being fixed and paved. You just see kind of the downgrade of the neighborhood. The fascia of the building is falling apart, hasn't been painted, hasn't been stuccoed, hasn't had new siding on it. There's poor lighting. Sometimes too, when real estate properties switch hands, depending upon the type of property, you find that sometimes strip malls, you may see them do a quick refresh or rehab to make it look pretty on the outside. After a lot of times a new owner has taken over, or if a new investor has come in and is like, look, they've done the research in the area, and they know that if we do this to this property and fix it up, then the real estate value is going to go up. That's with anything, right? You have to make improvements. And if improvements aren't made, then you experience a location downgrade.
That is actually, as I saw Cassandra mention the 4 Walmarts, and I haven't done a deep dive, but just my surface level research, some of them are closing due to just overwhelming theft, particularly that one on 47th and Cottage Grove, because it's actually going to be replaced with with condos and retail. So it's a multi-use building that they're putting there. And so I've seen some of what you're talking about. Like I said, I haven't done a deep dive into the other ones, but yeah, that's interesting.
And we don't think about this, right? It's one of those things wherein with neighborhoods, the people in the neighborhood have to take care of the businesses. And in turn, the businesses have to take care of the people that are there in the neighborhood. Because really anyone could be a potential customer, right? It's one of those things where because theft now is so high, they're closing that store. So now it's going to be an inconvenience, maybe to more people than needed, to try to get to another Walmart location in the area. And those people going in, causing the numbers and the theft to skyrocket, didn't think about that. That guess what? Now you won't have a store in your neighborhood. And that's something I go, we don't think about it because the way we go through life, it's like we're like this sometimes, focused on what we're needing to do. And it comes down to educating the community to say, hey, and having community events. And I don't know if people know this, but Starbucks, if you ever sometimes need free coffee for an event, if you notify the store manager in enough time, they'll fix coffee for you. They'll have it in the little carriers and give you cups and all of that good stuff. Yes, there's also a program called Grounds for Your Garden. Okay.
You got so excited about that, Valerie. I
Yeah,
have not seen her face light up like that.
especially too, if you're a nonprofit, I mean, there are so many different corporate social responsibility programs that Starbucks has to help connect with the community. There's also Grounds for Your Garden that you can actually take the used coffee grounds. They take the pucks from the espresso machines and all, they dump them into one kind of container, and then you can actually go into a store and ask for the ground to use for gardening. So if there's any community programs to garden, to revitalize a neighborhood, Starbucks would be a great partner to tap into. Your local Starbucks store. Go to the manager and ask, hey, what are you guys doing with those, with those old coffee grounds? Do you still have them? There's no charge for them. They give them to you because it's considered trash, but you're recycling to throw those grounds back into the dirt to help feed and source a garden. Oh, awesome. Awesome, Patty. I see that. Awesome. Yeah, and if you're a nonprofit and you say, hey, I'm having this event, and would you guys be able to donate some coffee? Most of the times they're up for it because everything will be branded Starbucks. That's a way to connect with the community, and then they get to know you, they get to know the great work that you're doing. And then there are times like right now, actually, I was just contacted to make a recommendation for a few organizations for Starbucks to give grant money to, anywhere from $1,000 to $10,000 that they will give to to programs, community-based programs, when they're nominated. And so I actually have a couple of businesses and organizers I've met here in the Las Vegas area, went out with them and saw the great work that they were doing. And I reached out to them yesterday when I received the notification. They were like, hey, Val, you have 6 more days to nominate your people. And I was like, oh, I forgot. And I reached out to them and said, hey, I would love to nominate you guys. And so you go, you connect with partners at Starbucks, and I go, you just never know what happened. You just never know. Now, let me go back here to leasing. Is it better to lease the facility? Well, pros of leasing: no down payment. Okay, so if you're kind of strapped for cash at the moment because you're building that business, sometimes it may be in your best interest at the time to lease. There's the pro of leasing, you have the tax deduction. Okay, you have no repairs and maintenance costs because a lot of times that will fall back on the owner, depending upon the type of lease that you have. And I'll cover that here in a bit. There are 3 different types of leases, commercial leases in the state of Illinois. It's easier to qualify. Okay, and then also it can be quicker with you getting into that space so that you can go ahead and launch and start that business, which gives you more choices. Now, one of the cons of leasing is that your lease can increase, or terms you may see is acceleration of a lease. Sometimes depending upon how long you've been in the space, after so many years, then you'll see the cost of your rent will go up. And that's because they figure by that time you should be rolling in the dough. You should be a little bit more profitable. So guess what? They want some more of that bottom line. They want you to have a little bit more skin in the game, and they want to make a little bit more money off of you. Then other con number 2 is the lease renewal ends, change of business location. Sometimes this happens. They may choose or know, hey, if we can get you out of here, get you moved, we can turn around, rehab the building, and charge more money for this space because of location, because of another potential business that can go into that space. That's kind of one of the downsides of leasing. And then, of course, you have no equity in the building. Leasing, you have little control because you're not the owner. And then sometimes you may have less space for growth. And if you have, depending on the space, if you have people on every side of you, there's no way to expand unless sometimes that person next door, if they go out of business or relocate, then you may have the potential to buy that space next door to do a bump out and to expand your business, depending upon the type of business that you have. Does anyone have any questions or would like to chime in, share any additional information? Cassandra, I know you mentioned that that you're an investor.
Yeah, so I'm a real estate broker as well, but I'm an investor. I would say I think this is awesome. The other things that you have to think about too, I would say with both are the additional responsibilities of that lease, because if that lease also requires you to pay insurance, if it requires you to pay for utilities, those things also have to definitely be taken into consideration. Sometimes when you add that into the leasing amount, it might actually make more sense to purchase, just depending on the lease type. And then the other thing you got to keep in mind too is that those leases are typically 3, 5, or 10 years. So it's not like a standard residential lease where it's 12 months. Like, you're locked into these leases. So just some other things that we should keep in mind.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Thank you so very much for sharing that. And question to ask yourself too, depending upon the situation that you're in, whether you're an owner or if you're leasing, is it best for you to have a property manager or a facility manager for your business? People don't think about this also as owners. Sometimes we try to do everything as business owners, and sometimes it's best to kind of take a piece of your responsibility and give it to someone else, or should I say delegate it to someone else to handle for you. Let me just share with you some of the duties of a property manager, because a property manager and a facility manager, there's some things they do that overlap, but then there are things that they do that are completely different. So for a property manager, property managers work for the property owner or investors. So when you're meeting with a property manager, if you're out looking to lease a space, keep in your mind there, okay, in the forefront of your mind, that their interest is their top priority is to look out for that owner or investor, okay? They have to look out for that owner or investor. That is who they work for. Now, they will do what they can to get you as a client, okay? But they still have to look out for that bottom line for that owner. The property manager is responsible for overseeing the safety and security of the building, with the primary job of maintaining profitability for the property owner, okay? And so they handle, just so some of the property manager's duties, they can be lease properties, they can do the market available property space, they can find reliable tenants, they can act as the liaison between the tenant and the owner. Because a lot of times people think, oh, I'm dealing with the property manager. Oh, they're not the owner, of course, okay? Sometimes it could be the owner that you're dealing with. And then if you're in a larger space, a lot of times they're just the property manager, and you'll never know who the investment company is or who the true owner is, because they have everything set up wherein that will not be disclosed. And then the duties of a facility manager. Facility managers are responsible for the related tenant services, and they primarily work with the residents and the business occupants. So mixed use spaces, actually, you'll see if you travel across the US, even now if you travel abroad. I spent this past December in the Philippines. I am loving Southeast Asia for some reason. I don't know what it is, but they have this model of condos, 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 and down below, all the way around, guess what? Retail stores, from restaurants to clothing stores to nail salons to massage lounges. And it's like, what? Everything's right there. Tenants are upstairs. They have no need to go anywhere else except for to stay within the block or the property. The workout center is there, the pool is there, means to eat, means to commune and enjoy the company of others. Everything is right there. And then 1 block away is the mall. And I said, this is ingenious. This is so smart. And they are putting up all of these condos and mixed use spaces in Southeast Asia, especially in Manila, downtown Manila, like no tomorrow. And it's like, this is so smart. And it's like, wow. They have it where, guess what? All the money is still staying there in one place. It's not leaving. So they're making money off of tenant spaces. They're making residential, okay? Because the condos, you can buy a condo over there, 35,000 US dollars, and you'll own it in 5 years, or you can just pay for it outright and you own it. And the country of Philippines, they do not take the property back like in some other foreign countries. They actually will take the property back to you after you've owned the deed or paid for it for 20 to 25 years. Over there, they actually allow you to keep the property for as long as you're the owner until you sell it.
Valerie, do you
And
have to be a citizen of those countries?
no, ma'am, you
Oh,
do not. You do not.
oh. See my
You
wheels
do
turning,
not.
Valerie?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You know, and it's so funny because I told someone not until you go out and you venture and you want to know what was downstairs. I actually went to a Starbucks store, and the Starbucks store covered almost the entire corner. And it was so interesting because it was 24 hours and it was open for the residents. Amazon had a corporate office just a few blocks away. This was near the world famous Mall of Asia, downtown Manila. And it was just like, oh my goodness. And there's so much construction going on over there. It is unbelievable. And I go, a facility manager, 24-hour security. That's part of the facility management component, right? You want to maintain a space that's safe for those that work there, for those that come in and out as patrons, so then they keep coming back, right? And so the primary focus of a facility manager is to maintain the vital systems within a commercial real estate property. So they do the maintenance and amenities upkeep, and they keep the tenants and the clients comfortable and secure, as I just said. That's what keeps you going back, right? Would you go back to a place? Would anyone here on this call tonight go back to a place that is unsafe? Right?
Absolutely not.
Exactly. So you want to make sure that wherever you choose to have your business, depending upon the type of business that you have, you want it to be safe, not just for customers, but also for your employees and for yourself. Okay. And then dealing with landlords. When you're dealing with landlords, they are the gatekeepers of that commercial lease. Okay. In Illinois, there are 3 types of leases. There's a triple net lease, a gross lease agreement, and the modified gross lease agreement. Cassandra, with you being you're in the real estate game, can you give your input about these 3 types of leases?
So some of them, I mean, as we talked about earlier, a lot of these leases will require the leasee to pay. The triple net lease, for example, is going to require the leasee to pay the rent, the utilities, as well as the three basic other types of property expenses, which are insurance, maintenance, and taxes. That is going to be the responsibility of the leasee. That's the one that I'm more familiar with. I'm not as familiar with the gross lease, and I'm not as familiar with the modified, because most owners stick with the triple net.
Yes, ma'am. And that is, thank you for sharing that.
You're welcome.
I'm not a real estate guru. I'm not. That's why I asked her to kind of share her input there. But if you can see this, I have a triple net lease at the top. That was on purpose, because that is the lease that is predominantly used, and that is kind of the go-to lease in commercial leases in the state of Illinois. If you're looking to expand your business outside of the state of Illinois, then it's important to know that what applies in Illinois may not apply in one of the neighboring states. So there's Indiana, Ohio's not too far. You have Wisconsin, you have Michigan. So just be mindful of that in the kind of planning process. And all right, evictions. You don't want to get evicted, but as Cassandra did share, you're not on a 1-year lease, okay? When you're a business owner, you're on that 3, 5, and 10. And it's interesting when she shared that's how at Starbucks we would do our refreshes, but we wouldn't do our refresh until that lease was renegotiated, okay? We would not dump any more money into our space that we were leasing until we knew the ink was dry. Not pending, not waiting for a signature, or there's only this one, we're waiting for one more. No. If we had to push a renovation, if we didn't do a refresh, we would move it to another quarter if we had to. And that was until the real estate team finished working out our deal. And if you don't have a real estate expert on your team as you're looking to grow your business or decide whether or not you want to lease or own your own property, you need to get one. There's one actually right here on the call with us. And if she can't handle it,
I was gonna say, I think we have two.
who else is on here? I'm sorry, because I don't want to leave you out. It's like, yes.
Paulette is on.
Yes, Paulette, thank you. I'm sorry. I don't want to leave you out, because real estate professionals are needed, and you need to seek their wise counsel when you're considering owning or leasing. Starbucks we had a real estate team in Seattle. Then the real estate team in Seattle would come out to wherever we were to look at, okay, what about this? What about that? What about this? They were there on the ground if needed. If we needed them to fly out, look and see, is it worth doing this deal? They weren't just there sitting in the office, okay? They were actually out on the ground. And they started to have regional real estate reps. At first, we didn't have that. And then they started to see the importance of having a local real estate team, which then they created and made us a store development team. Okay. And then we all had to kind of work together. So then once they cut the deal and they handed off everything to us on the facilities team, we knew what we were to take care of. We knew what the arrangement was. We knew where the repair and maintenance cost and kind of, but we would help budget for that. And that leads to a smooth transition. So please do not leave out your real estate professional. This here in the state of Illinois, I just found this information. It says generally in Illinois, a landlord can evict a commercial tenant for just cause. This means that a landlord must have a legal reason. One legal reason can be non-payment. Okay. Eviction of a commercial tenant is an option in Illinois for a landlord when the tenant has violated a term of the commercial lease. I say read your lease. Real estate professional and attorney. Always important to read the fine print. Okay. And then on average, the eviction process can take 40 to 90 days after the tenancy or occupant's right to possession of the property has been terminated. Does anyone have any questions? And the final point, always seek legal advice before signing a commercial contract. Okay, I have this deck here, sink or swim. You want to be able to walk up here, climb up that ladder, and stand on this deck here. Okay. Always seek legal advice before signing really any contract. And a little quote, facilities management expert said, if I had 6 hours to chop down a tree, I'd spend the first 4 of those 6 hours sharpening the axe. That's preparation. Okay. So that's just making sure that, you know what? I'm going to do what I need to do in the beginning, kind of prep. And then once I prep, I already know I can take down this tree in 2. All right. And what are your takeaways from this evening? Please unmute, share. If you have any additional questions, let me know.
Mine is that, Southeast Asia was already on my list to explore, as I do love to travel. So push it up a little higher on the list. I hadn't added it to the list to consider purchasing like a condo or whatever. So thank you for that. And then
You're welcome.
also, I never separated facilities management and property management. Until you just kind of broke it down. I have friends who are facility managers, and then I have friends who are property managers. And I never thought about it as 2 separate things before you just said that. So, and I like the way that you broke down the hard and the soft. When you really put it on the screen, like that is a lot that they have to manage. So it makes sense to have a team. But even for myself, wanting to own multiple properties, even if I hire someone, I should be aware of those things too, so that I can make sure they are doing, the hard and the soft things that need to be done.
Yes, ma'am.
So thank you.
You're welcome.
I haven't talked too much because I'm at a home inspection as a real estate broker. And so the whole family is here, so it's a little noisy. So I've kind of kept myself mute most of the evening. But overall, I thought it was really awesome. A lot of good information. I have a retail background. I was a buyer for a major retailer for a number of years. And as a real estate agent, I'm just now, the reason it was important for me to be a part of this is because I do want to open a store. And I've kind of reached out to some different storefronts, but you just gave me some more ammunition and some more information that I can use to kind of help put my thoughts together on what I want to present and how I want to present my business, so that a prospective landlord would be willing to take a chance on me, because I've done my business for a number of years, but I've never had a brick and mortar. And so that's kind of new for me. And so this was really good. You gave me a really good buzzword, which was what do I want the consumer to experience? And having an experience is so important. So thank you for that. I think it was an awesome presentation, and I'd love to email you with more questions as I pursue this process.
Thank you, Paulette, for sharing that with me. And there's some other things that I didn't include in this, that with you sharing with me where you're looking to go, that I don't know if you've ever heard of like pop-ups, but that's something else that you can do also to kind of help gain momentum before you fully invest in that brick and mortar. There's little things that you can do with the pop-up setup to help, you know, kind of build your client base for when you do find that perfect location for your brick and mortar, for your retail location. Anyone else?
So I'm wanting to hop in and say thank you for the presentation. I definitely did learn a lot. And I wanted to say, so what stuck out to me, I was going to piggyback off Dr. Lauren with the with one, thinking about facilities management. Again, I had never really explored that, you know, even what that has to do with like me as a small business owner or as an entrepreneur. And so I'm to be able to make that connection. And then also the hard and soft part of the of what makes up facility management was very enlightening. And then the final thing that stuck out to me as well was what Ms. Cass talked about, which is understanding that sometimes the leases are 3, 5 and 10 years, and not an annual lease like what it is with the residential, which was something that I didn't know. And then also with your presentation, just understanding that, the different kinds of leases and then what's most common in Illinois. So although I'm not really at that point where I'm looking for a space either to lease or buy, but people ask me questions about those things. So now I have a little bit more knowledge about those things, and then some tips to kind of guide that process as well as people to connect them with. So thank you for the presentation.
I'm more than welcome. And that was Tachina, correct?
Yes, Tachina.
Thank you, Tachina.
This is Linda.
Hi, Linda. How are you?
Good. I just wanted to say thank you for reassuring me that being a home-based business is good for my business.
Mhm.
Sometimes you think about making changes and you don't realize you might be in the best spot already. So the knowledge is good. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hey, this is Cassandra. I just wanted to pop in, echoing everything that everybody has said. This is so timely, especially because here in Chicago, we're dealing with a lot of different opportunities, the Neighborhood Opportunity Fund. We just got a new mayor. So trying to figure out how funding is going to change as a result of new administration, where this money is going to be allocated to different communities, and really being able to help people understand some of the things that they should identify prior to going into a brick and mortar. It was just extremely, extremely timely. We have a commercial cohort that's going on here in Chicago with some residential real estate brokers that are actually in a commercial cohort to become commercial real estate brokers. And so I serve as their support on that cohort. And this is just great information that I could even take back to them. So don't be surprised if I tap you
Okay.
in the near future, okay?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you.
You're welcome. And Cassandra, I had actually a colleague of mine, a former colleague of mine. He's now he's like one of the lead renovation construction managers over at Starbucks. We still keep in touch. I actually still keep in touch with quite a few of my former colleagues. And he was going to try to hop on with us today, but Everett couldn't make it. But he told me to let him know the next time. He just said Wednesdays aren't good for him right now
Okay.
because of a family obligation. But if there's another time that he can chime in, and he actually covers the Chicagoland area. just let me know. And he's connected. Also, too, if no, I forgot to mention this, it's important to make sure you know any general contractors. And a lot of times, too, real estate brokers know GCs. That's important to have in your network. Okay, because when it comes down to build out, quotes for build out, you have these people on your team and in your circle that can let you know, that's a little too high. Okay, that pricing is not right for that build out. They can share and let you know, hey, we can do that. We can get that done for this cost. And sometimes they can step in, reach out to that landlord and help kind of get you a better deal and better pricing. Okay.
Awesome. I'll definitely be in touch.
Thank you.
Sandra's point, I was hoping that there were more folks who are interested in applying for the next round of NOF on here, because the NOF funding, it consists of a lot of knowing what you talked about here today, having that team of folks, your real estate broker, agent, your lawyer, your GC, they want to see that you've done that research when you're applying for this money. And so we might have to just do a NOF specific webinar and bring you back, because they're going to open the next round in the summer. They haven't released the exact date, but the head of it let me know that they would be opening the next round in the summer. And that may be something to have him come on as well as you, and you guys tag team him more so, given, because I told him that I would like him to partner with us and create a checklist on how to get folks ready to apply. There's a lot of our small businesses, they miss out on that type of funding, because it's not just you fill out the application. Like, you have to have done your research, and you have to have assembled or either met with these folks that you mentioned here today. So that would be a powerful, Patty and Nick, that would probably be a powerful webinar, and we could drive a lot of traction to that, as there are so many folks looking to apply for that funding. Just thinking, my wheels are always turning. Valerie, this has been extremely awesome. So awesome. It's awesome when people are willing to stay on a little bit past the cutoff time, and we don't lose people after they've been at work all day. Patty, Nick, thank you so much for sharing such a gem with us.
Oh, I know. You're welcome. Thanks, Valerie. And Valerie, thank you for making me understand why Starbucks changes their stores every 3 years, because now I fully understand it. I couldn't figure it out. I'm like, but it was great.
Always the experience, and if you notice, it's their connection. It's people first. Everyone that comes in, everyone that walks into a Starbucks store, and the thing I loved about working for that organization was that before I went to work in the corporate office, I had to work for about a week or two in my neighborhood Starbucks store behind the counter. I had to learn how to make the different drinks, even though I messed them up. God only knows how many times, because I'm not a coffee drinker. But luckily they purchased Tazo tea, so they made things a little bit easier for me. And it was just one of those eye-opening experiences that, it was one of those things. Before you make a change to a store, before you recommend a change, consider, how does it impact the barista that's behind the counter? How does it impact the customer experience? All of these things that normally it's just like, oh, I want to change it. Some businesses, I just want to change it because I want to. It's like, no, you have to think about how everyone would be impacted by that change. And it's really helped me. Working for Starbucks has really helped to open my eyes to a lot of different things. I mean, even down to how I grocery shop now, which is so scary.
Yeah, it's amazing.
No, thank you. And even the tidbits about the free coffee and the
I know,
coffee grinds
I
as I
know.
prepare to garden, I think I'm just gonna go up there. Now, Valerie, if they look at me like I've lost my mind, I'm gonna be like, Valerie Banister told
Tell
me.
them Edward Abrams sent you.
Where's
And
the free
then Edward will
coffee?
call me and go, Val.
No, we greatly appreciate you, and thank you to those who joined us here tonight. Valerie, I put my email in the chat, lwilliams@woodlawnchamberchicago.org. So if you could send me the PowerPoint, those who put their information in the chat, I can send it to them. And thank you again so much. This was so
This was fabulous.
enlightening. If
Yeah.
you guys are not a member of the chamber, please feel free to go to www.woodlawnchamberchicago.org and become a member. If no one else, Patty, do you have anything you would like to say?
No, I'm good. Thank you. This was extremely informative. It was a wonderful presentation. And you were right. You had a good feeling. It was there.
It was there. I was like, I think this one's gonna work out.
Yeah. So thank you, Valerie. Much
Thank
appreciated.
you so much appreciated. And if there's anything that we can do for you at the chamber in the future, you want to partner with us on, we are here. And obviously SBAC, we're all family. So just let us know. Just let us know. All right, guys. Everybody have a good evening.
Thank you. You too. Thanks, Valerie. Thanks, Dr.
You're
Williams.
welcome,
too.
Patty. Thank you, Dr. Williams. Everyone, much success with your businesses.
Thank you.